to Out of the Box Radio with me, your host, Christine Blasdale. Out of the Box Radio is a weekly podcast of audible ear candy dedicated to bringing a fresh perspective on this thing that we call life. And each and every week, we're going to be diving into the topics that matter most with lively conversations on issues such as health, wellness, and transformational healing, all with the goal of creating a better world and becoming a happier human being. I will be your tour guide for this epic adventure, and each and every week we're going to be embarking on a journey with the ultimate goal being transformation to our highest potential. And now, let's get out of the box. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Out of the Box Radio. I'm your host, Christine Blasdale, and welcome to 2018. This is the very first Out of the Box radio show for the new year. And what a perfect opportunity to bring in someone very special that I've known about. I've known the work that he's done for many years, and I've always wanted to interview him. So today is a very special day. My very special guest today is Brent Phillips, and he is the author of the brand new book, The Formula for Miracles, where science reveals the secrets of the spirit. He is also a highly sought-after healer, speaker, and educator on the subject of theta brainwaves. And we're going to find out more about that this hour and how you can achieve higher levels of consciousness, how we all can achieve higher levels of consciousness tapping into those theta brainwaves. In short, his Awakening Dynamics system and his books that he has been publishing are basically, it will help get you on the superhighway to higher consciousness. And what a great way to start 2018 off. I want to welcome to the program, without further ado, Mr. Brent Phillips. Welcome, Brent.
Oh, I am so excited to be here. This is great.
And isn't this a wonderful opportunity to start 2018 off with the the formula for miracles?
It is. It really is. One thing a lot of people may be dimly aware of is we're all becoming more powerful.
Oh, I
day
feel
by
it.
Day, right?
I feel it, Brent. In my own personal life, it's happening.
Yep. If you don't realize it or know what's happening, you're going to use that power to create a bunch of garbage. You're going to create a bigger pile of garbage than you ever thought possible.
Right?
Right?
Oh.
But if you know what you're doing, if you have a good coach, a good mentor who can set you on the right track, you can use that power to do some incredible things.
I agree wholeheartedly. Now, I mentioned in the beginning, in the introduction, that you are a speaker and an educator on the subject of theta brainwaves, and we'll get into that. But I always like to, on Out of the Box Radio, I always love to hear about my guests, their journey to where they are now, where they began, where they, where was the point where you came to the, the light bulb that kind of went off in your mind maybe to where you are now. Let's give our listeners a little bit of a background, your background of where you came from, your education, and how you got to the place where you are right now in 2018.
Sure, would love to. I am the first to admit that I never thought I'd be doing anything like this. It's been 15 years now. I've been a professional healer, a teacher of energy healing, awakening, enlightenment, higher consciousness. Really what I think of is what I call the secrets to higher dimensional living. But I never thought I'd be doing this because growing up, I was a computer geek. I loved video games and played Dungeons and Dragons and loved Star Wars and that kind of stuff. And I ended up in college at MIT where I discovered the internet. And of course, that sounds funny today, but back in the 80s, no one had ever heard of the internet.
No, it was zeros and ones, wasn't it? Zeros and ones and that AOL.
It was very simple. It was all command line interfaces, FTP, Telnet. There was no World Wide Web. There was none of that stuff. It was basically a bunch of geeks who were communicating, chatting with each other in chat rooms and, talking about geeky stuff. And that was about it. But we liked it.
And I only remember that whole AOL thing where that horrible... That sound, that was when I entered, but you entered way before that.
Oh, yeah. When I was 12 years old, we got our first personal computer, and I got a modem for my birthday. And you know what? No one got to use the phone for the next 6 years. I was on that thing constantly. My sister hated me because she never got to use the phone. But anyhow, I spent a long time at MIT, got my bachelor's degree, my master's degree. I was working towards my PhD as one of the experts in internet technology. I was one of the first to send live video over the web in 1994. Did a lot of other cool stuff that I won't bore you with all the geeky details. But I then left when the internet boom hit, figuring, heck, I'm going to go out into the world. I'll start an internet company, work really hard for a couple of years, sell it for millions of dollars, and then I'll spend my days hot tubbing with supermodels on some tropical island. That was my kind of grand plan for life. And there's an old joke that goes, "How do you make God laugh? Just tell him your plans." So there was a lot of laughter in heaven around that time in my life because it didn't work out anything like that. Things got actually off to a good start. I started a website company with my best friend, and we quickly, it was funny, the very first website I ever did in my life, my first website, was the website for the launch of the Sony PlayStation in summer of 1995.
Holy moly.
Yep. And so we did a lot of high profile websites for Fortune 500 companies. I started another company to do a revolutionary kind of online game that had never been created before. And, a year later, I had 15 people working for me and things were going great. And that's when, the slippery slope began. And again, long story short, I was pushing myself so hard to build these two companies. I was bootstrapping two companies right at the start of the internet boom, doing things that no one had ever done before. And I was literally working 100 hours a week. It was, all day, every day, no breaks, no vacations, no holidays. It was just work constantly. And my body started to break down. I was afflicted with, at first, mild pain that got worse and worse and worse. Soon it got so bad that I could barely drive because holding a steering wheel was painful for me. I even had to move in with my parents because some days I was in so much pain, I had to have my mother cut my food for me and help me eat. So this wasn't like a little tingle in my wrist. This was life-shattering pain. And, long story short, I spent 3 years chasing all sorts of conventional therapies. I kind of worked my way up the food chain at Curlin Job, which is the top physical therapy clinic in LA where the Olympians and professional athletes go. And I was doing all this intensive treatments and scans and blah, 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 and nothing helped. It all came to a head, and I plunged into my first dark night of the soul in 1998 when, after working through their system for 3 years, I finally got an appointment to see the head doctor, the number one guy. And I figured, wow, I finally got in. This guy will know what to do. I'm going to get out of pain. I'm going to get my life back. Instead, I walked into his office and he just looked at me and said, "I'm sorry, son, but there's nothing I or anyone can do for you. Tell me, son, is there someone that can take care of you until you die?"
Holy
And
moly.
so that really happened. I was 27 years old, and he put me on permanent disability, told me I could never work again, and asked who could take care of me until I died. So you can imagine how devastating that was. It was also around that same time, my partners had lost patience with me because I could barely work. My lifelong best friend not only stole the website company and sold it for millions of dollars, he also was secretly dating the woman that I was crazy in love with.
Oh no! Oh no! 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 No!
Yep.
No! The millions of dollars thing. You know what? I can understand that, but your heart.
Yep, it was both. And here's the really sick and twisted thing: he had inherited 7 figures, maybe 8, because he was from a very wealthy family.
Oh, so he didn't even need the money.
He had all the money in the world. He never had to work a day in his life
And
if he didn't want to.
Could have probably gotten any girl, whatever, but
Yep.
he had to go after yours.
Yep. And so, I was in terrible pain. I couldn't live unassisted. I was told I could never work. There was no chance of recovery. I had lost my multi-million-dollar company. And I also had lost my lifelong best friend and had a terrible broken heart. And so it was after that, that's when things started to get really bad. I got very depressed and I started drinking a lot and got really self-destructive. I was lucky that I had a friend who helped, made a little intervention and turned me on to positive thinking. And, nowadays we call it the law of attraction. Back in the 90s, we called it positive thinking, and it's all kind of the same stuff. And I got, really it helped me. I got really gung ho on positive thinking for a while. And I'd go to these weekend programs and jump on the stage and high five my friends and make, say my mantras 108 times a day and go to masterminds and all this stuff, right? Uh, Unfortunately, it didn't help me. I know it works for some people, but I just felt eventually it was a giant waste of time and money. And so again, spiraled into depression and alcoholism. But then I got another angel was sent to pull me out, and I got turned on to alternative medicine. And I was really excited because I thought, hey, this alternative stuff, maybe this will work for me, right? And so, again, to make a long story short, I spent 5 years on disability as a full-time patient. Pretty much all I did was run around to various doctors and therapists and healers and acupuncturists and osteopaths and chiropractors, and I did cleanses and had all these different machines. And I mean, again, I could talk for hours about all this stuff. And I really believed it was going to help me, but it didn't. And the horrible thing was the whole time I wasn't getting any better. I was getting worse. And it all came to a head in 2003. I had agreed to have an experimental surgery that a doctor thought could help me. And when I woke up from the surgery, I found my right arm was paralyzed. I couldn't move it at all. And so that was kind of when I hit the rock bottom. And I was very lucky. I spent about 4 months in physical therapy, and they couldn't get my arm moving. I had another operation. And it was then that my Aunt Lauren told me about her friend Terry. And I had met Terry a couple times. She was a friend of the family. And Terry had been a really successful, high-flying financial professional. She was a Wharton School MBA, super smart, made lots of money. She had had a terrible health crisis. She almost died. And she found this process of working with theta brainwaves to access the subconscious is what literally saved her life. And it all sounded a little crazy to me, but I agreed to go see her. And I remember walking in, and she's just sitting on her couch smiling, and she's like, "Oh, Brent, come on in. Oh, you can't move your arm. Don't worry about that. We'll take care of that." And I'm like, "Wow, what are you smoking, lady?" Right? And we spent about an hour, and she asked me a lot of questions, and we did this thing called muscle testing, and she did this subconscious clearing process. And at the end of the hour, she said, "Okay, Brent, now we're going to take care of your arm." And she kind of went into this trance for a minute. And I'm sitting across the room with her, right? There's no machine or anything involved. It's all done just with mind. And I felt this big pop inside my elbow, like a firecracker went off. And I said, "Whoa." And I remember Terry opened her eyes and kind of smiled and said, "Okay, dear, try your arm." And I did. And I was like, oh my God, I could move my arm again. It was like the surgery never happened.
Wow.
And so that was just the first of many, many miracles to come. And that was really the turning point in my life. And I remember looking at Terry and I said, "Terry, I don't know what you just did, but I got to learn this stuff." And really, I want everyone listening to know that when I started down this path, I had no talent at this. Oh my gosh, I was the worst of the worst. And I started going to energy healing seminars and intuitive development programs and studying spiritual material. And I quickly learned that I was really bad at it. But I had one big advantage, and that was my education and my background in science and engineering. And so even though I had no talent at all for this stuff, what I did was I spent the next 10 years going around to different master healers and gurus and intuitives and masters. And little by little, I reverse engineered their processes. I figured out what they were doing. And, that's really kind of the talent and gift that I bring to the world. I was not born with any kind of great talent to be a healer or an intuitive or talk to God or channel the angels or anything like that. I'm just a regular guy who spent way too much time in learning engineering and on computers. But what I did have was the ability to cut through a lot of the nonsense and the fluff and figure out what was really going on behind the scenes. And so, that's really what I think people need, because there's so much garbage out there.
Yes.
There's so many people that maybe took one weekend seminar and call themselves a master and start charging one arm and a leg, and they really don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate that we know if we give up, we're not going to make a breakthrough, right? You should never give up.
And that's where we are right now. I love how you put it in. It's like to cut through all the nonsense, because let's face it, we are busy. And if we're busy with life, with kids, with family, with work, with life in general. A lot of it too is in the struggle, and I say that with air quotes. The struggle, meaning the struggle through life, be it work, relationships, health, like you yourself were dealing with. This there. What I love about the work you do is that there's like a shortcut, not a shortcut meaning like you don't have to do any work, because anybody that does any of the work that you have taught, it's not a shortcut where you just sit back and let's just, I'm just going to kick back and not do anything. It's taking an active participation role in your own healing, in your own success, whatever it is that you want out of life. But what I do like is that it's kind of like reaching that beautiful secret garden, that secret nirvana, and you're just taking them through a little bit of a shortcut instead of going through years and years and years of reading this, reading that, studying under this and under that. It's actually quite simple, but it has been kept from so many people. It's a secret, yet it is not a secret. How does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Yeah. And what it comes down to is to relate just a quick story from my life. I remember when I took calculus in high school, I thought it was really complicated, really hard. I didn't really like it. But then when I got to MIT, I took it again, and I was shocked at how easy it was. It was elegant, even beautiful.
Wow.
And it was so simple. What was the difference? I had a good teacher at MIT.
A teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Presented in a way that just made it really simple and elegant. It was almost fun. And I look back and I go, wow, it's so such a disadvantage that we have so many people that get turned off to things just because they didn't have the right teacher. And so that's kind of what I've done with energy healing, law of attraction, higher consciousness, is I've kind of learned all these really complicated, difficult systems and found out that what's sitting underneath is actually something quite simple and elegant and beautiful. And the good news is that, I've had a lot of success in my private practice as a healer. I'm very proud that this last year I surpassed the 1,500 miracle mark. So that's over 1,500 what I call medical miracles happen for my clients.
Wow.
And the reason that's so important is this is not from any talent I had. This is from a system that I learned and developed. And that my students that I teach it, they go off and have a similar level of success. And I had one of my students came to, I did an online training last December. And his mother was in the hospital, had stage 4 lung cancer, and was given 2 weeks to live. He went through just my weekend intensive, did a healing on her, and she went into complete remission. Went home 2 weeks later. And so, of course, I have to say, that's not typical, right? I can't promise that's going to happen for you. But these things happen all the time. And it's not a matter of having a talent. It's just a matter of learning how it works. You learn what's really going on behind the scenes. And that's really what they taught me to do at MIT. They're like, okay, you go find some system, you take it apart, you figure out how it works, you put it back together and make it better. And that's what I've tried to do with all the consciousness work. I want to make it easy for people. That it's so easy to do now. Most people would be shocked. When I started my journey, really it took me about 5 years of full-time work to get to the place where my teacher certified me as a master healer. So maybe 6. Yeah, I think it was 6 years. And that was full-time, right? Like 40, 50 hours a week over the course of many years.
Right.
I can teach people that now in a couple months.
Oh, that's beautiful. And
yeah, 3 months I'd say is average, and we're not talking full time. We're talking like a couple weekends and maybe an hour or two of practice a week.
And there's that ripple effect too, Brent. Well, this is what I love, and this is what I love about
There is.
Out of the Box.
Sure.
Out of the Box Radio is a podcast I started after 15 years in radio, I wanted to have the ability to talk to people like yourself who are sharing their gifts and are having that ripple effect. In other words, what you do affects one person or many people, thousands of people, and then what they do in return affects thousands of people, and then it just keeps going. And on these programs, of course, it airs live on a particular time and a particular day, but then I also make it as a YouTube video so that people can share it on social media. They can share it in their emails to their family and friends. And that is where I found that ripple effect really take off. Everything from shows on healing and higher awareness, but also I've done an interview with a master narcissist, which was very interesting. And it's those programs on YouTube have had 80,000 views, and people are sharing it because they have all experienced that pain of being in a relationship with a master narcissist or a mid-level narcissist, and how their lives have been quite, honestly destroyed in many respects. But they're sharing that information because there's so many people affected by it. It's the same thing with the work that you do. So many people have been affected by, if it's not a physical injury or a physical ailment or dis-ease, then it is a pain or a tear in the heart chakra. I know we carry things from past lives as well that maybe we're not aware of or conscious of in this lifetime, but we carry through. So what I love about the work you do is that there is that ripple effect. And and I'm so glad that you have a new book out. It's called, folks, if you're just tuning in, it's called The Formula for Miracles, where science reveals the secrets of the spirit. And my guest right now is Brent Phillips. He's talking about his beginnings into this and awakening to this incredible system that's available to us all. And he's just kind of like sparking, I guess, that remembrance of this information. Brent, if you can, will you talk a little bit about let's get down to the nitty-gritty. The Formula for Miracles. What is the Formula for Miracles, Brent Phillips?
Sure. The Formula for Miracles is a simple set of tools for learning how to access the subconscious mind through a theta brainwave. I kind of call it the basics of higher consciousness. And by basics, don't worry, it's immensely powerful. This is the exact system I used to create those medical miracles for people. Over 1,500 miraculous healings. Lots of cancer, dozens and dozens of different types of cancer. I've seen instant healing on HIV, broken bones heal overnight, hundreds of allergies, you name it. And it's because it's just a really simple system to cut through the clutter. The way I describe it is, believe it or not, your computer has been trying to show you how to fix your life. Bet you didn't know that, huh?
Say what?
Yeah, it's not a coincidence that computers and this technology showed up in the world when it did. One of the purposes is to teach us how to harness our own power, because a human works just like a computer. What's a computer? It's a chunk of hardware, right? A bunch of wires and plastic with code. And all the intelligence is in the code, isn't it? And the computer runs programs. It makes it do stuff, right?
Right.
Your life is the same. All of our lives are the same. We have a body, that's our hardware, but we're full of code. I call it the software of the soul. It's just your subconscious mind. It's that simple. And we have a program for every aspect of life. We run a program for how much money we make, for our moods, for our friends. We run programs for our health, you name it. And when you learn that, what you realize is most of us have spent our lives. There was an old blonde joke I remember hearing in the 90s that how do you know a blonde has been using your computer? Well, the screen is covered with whiteout and black marker.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, right? Yeah. The fact is, that's how we've been trained to live our lives. That getting money is not necessarily about an education or a job or an investment. It's a consciousness. It's an energy. It's the code inside of you. And it's the same thing for everything, for our health, for our emotions. And if you look around, it's obvious. The evidence is overwhelming. We've all known people that are just happy and positive no matter what, right? Yeah. They're coded to be happy. They'll always find the bright side. There's also people who are negative and nasty no matter what. That's their program, is to be unhappy. I'm sure you and most of our listeners have heard that most of the multi-million dollar lottery winners lose all their money within 5 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's not a coincidence. And guess what? Did you know that nowadays they don't just hand you a check? You have to go through classes and certifications and trainings. They want to make sure you know how to manage the money and hire an accountant and pay taxes and say no to relatives and all that, right? And guess what? They're still losing all their money. And so what's going on? It's pretty simple. They're running a program of being poor and middle class, and a bunch of money shows up and their subconscious gets rid of it. We're not programmed for this. And so what it comes down to is pretty simple. Your life is composed of code. You want to change your life, you just have to change the code. And that's what the Formula for Miracles does. And I want to tie it back. You mentioned the theta state. That's really important. And the theta wave is simply a very low frequency brainwave. All of us know about it. All of us go into theta every night when we're asleep and dreaming. Or what's called REM, rapid eye movement sleep. That's the theta state. Well, here's the thing. If you learn how to access that same brainwave state when you're awake, you can unlock the subconscious.
Okay,
you can
wait.
And change your code.
Let's go back, because most people completely, they're hearing you, but they're not hearing you. They're like,
sure.
Wait, theta brainwaves, it's like when you sleep, because most people, I'll tell you, the average human being, Brent Phillips, the average human being will go, well, wait a second, I take a bath, I brush my teeth, I kiss my kids, I kiss my puppy, and I pull up the covers, and I go night-night, I turn off the lights, and I go night-night, and then I fall asleep, hopefully, easily, and then I wake up the next morning and do it all over again. I go to work, I get the kids breakfast, I do this whole thing. They do not, the majority of the population has absolutely no clue about what happens when we sleep.
Yep.
Absolutely none. So let's talk about what happens when we sleep, and in particular, those theta brainwaves.
Sure. So one of the questions I always ask is, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go?
Oh, take us to the dungeon, Brent.
All right. So what's really going on? Pretty simple. When you fall asleep, the soul leaves the body.
Oh.
It goes back to its interdimensional natural state.
Beautiful.
And goes on a journey. And when it is on this journey, the subconscious mind takes over and runs the show. And this is why through many different cultures, we've interpreted dreams. Dreams are seen as prophetic, all these things. There's a reason for that. It's because it's tapping into the code inside of us, that subconscious, that direct connection to the higher dimensions. And we have this ability, but most of us forget it when we wake up. And so if, it's fixing your life is not too much different than fixing your computer. If your word processor is crashing, you know that you just got to either download a new one or go in and fix the bugs, right? It's pretty simple.
Or reboot.
Right. Drawing on the monitor is not going to fix your code, is it?
No.
But that's how we're trained to live our lives. We think that money is about getting more money and so on and so forth. It's not. It's about consciousness. It's about what's on the inside, the code. But to most of us, the subconscious is kind of this nebulous, invisible thing, right? We kind of know it's there, but we have no idea how it works or what we can do with it.
None.
This is what I want to show people. That's what the Formula for Miracles is. It's really simple things you can learn in order to access the subconscious and start changing that code to change your life. And it's very simple. And most people can start learning to communicate with the subconscious. It takes about 15 minutes.
Oh.
And that's it. It does take a little bit of time. I got to talk people through some things. But that's all it takes to get started. That's your first step into that world.
And you give people exercises or direction on how they can access the subconscious.
Yeah. First, you learn how to communicate with it, which is pretty easy. Then you learn how to get to a theta state, and then how to give it commands and directions to do healings, to clear blocks, to create things in your life to manifest. And it's very, very simple. And what I've done is just for the geeks in the crowd, there was a joke we used to say a lot at MIT that all problems in computer science are solved by adding another level of indirection. Well, what does that mean? Well, it's like driving your car. You don't need to know how an engine works to drive your car, do you? Nope. You don't even have to know about gears if you have an automatic transmission.
Right.
And so when I learned healing, it was kind of like, well, if you want to drive a car, you have to build the engine yourself. And there were a lot of steps, and it was very complicated and error prone. And if you stuck with it over a course of years, you could figure it out. So what I've done is developed a technology that no one else has, where I can literally download the code of being a healer right into my students. Then all I need to do is show you how to use it.
Wow.
It's just like to drive a car. You just need to know the accelerator, the brake, the steering wheel, right? That's pretty much it.
For those that are listening to this and they hear that ding, they hear that bell, or they get the goosebumps, which is like, for me, recognition. Whenever I get those chills or goosebumps, in addition to getting the book, The Formula for Miracles, are people able to contact you directly through your website per se
Absolutely.
to be
in fact,
to be a student?
I want to make it really easy on everybody. And I want to let everyone know I'm not here to sell books. I'm here to give them away.
Nice.
And so the Formula for Miracles is a 3-volume set. Anyone that wants to come to my website at awakeningdynamics.com, you can check it out. There's a spiritual IQ quiz that a lot of people love. It's a lot of fun. A lot of other information. On February 6th, I'm doing a heal-a-thon, where I'm going to do, talk a little more in depth and walk people through some of these aspects of higher consciousness. And so people can experience it for themselves.
Will that be online? That'll be live.
It will be, live online.
Beautiful.
And as soon as you register for the webinar, you're going to get book 1 for free.
Oh, wow.
And those that come and attend the webinar, you're going to get book 2 for free.
Gorgeous.
So
Gorgeous.
I'm here to give the books away because I want people to know this stuff.
Yeah.
I want you to learn how it works. There really is simple science underneath this stuff. It's not magic. It's not mysticism. It's not about being a chosen one or having a special power, right? Any more so than driving a car, right?
Right.
And here's the beautiful thing. There are people that are super talented at driving race cars, right?
Right. Yeah.
They call them professional racers. They go to the Indy 500 or F1, right?
Yeah.
But for most of us, you don't need to be an IndyCar driver to get to the store or go to work, do you?
No, to navigate the 405, you just need to be patient.
Right. And so that's what I'm going to teach everybody. It's very, very easy to learn to use these tools of the Formula for Miracles to move into higher consciousness. It's really easy to learn to do healings, to manifest, to clear space, to develop your intuition. And of course, not everyone's going to have a supernatural talent. But you don't need that.
You don't need that, right? You don't need that. Not everybody needs to be a Mario Andretti.
Right. And to be a master healer, that's like driving to the store.
Right.
It really is about the same amount of time commitment. Because you know what? When I was 15 and I was learning to drive, it took me, 3 to 6 months to get comfortable with it? Mm-hmm. That's how long it takes to be a master healer. It's that easy. And, this is one thing where it is literally a formula for miracles. But, I want to tell the truth. And that's just my nature, right? I'm an engineer, a scientist. Honestly, I'm terrible at sales and all marketing and all that stuff.
Me too.
Because that's not about the truth. I'm all about the truth.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that you said earlier, this is not something that I'm just going to wave a wand and fix your life.
Right, right.
Miracles happen, right? But here's the thing. We have to understand that we don't get to pick the miracles. They pick us. If you can remember that, you'll go far with this. Yeah. It's very easy. And when I do my weekend intensives, we'll generally see anywhere from 5 to 10 instant healings happen on the very first day from people who have never done healings before. And I've been teaching this for 15 years, and I've never had a group where we didn't see miracles happen on the first couple hours.
That's beautiful.
And I'm emphasizing that because that's how easy this is.
Well, what I love...
I spent all these years writing the code. I just want to throw it on your hard drive and show you how to click it.
Exactly. And what
healing really is that easy.
And what you also reveal to people is that it is already embedded within us. It's almost okay. You understand, like with CBD or the cannabinoid, right? The cannabinoid in, let's say, and I'm not talking about recreational marijuana, but CBD, hemp, marijuana, whatever you want to call it. There are CBD receptors, cannabinoid receptors in our bodies, in us, that are ready for that connection, and it's something that's already embedded in us. And so what my understanding is, and throughout these many years of talking to so many different people, is that this ability that we have to heal physical, emotional, spiritual, psychological wounds, pains, struggles, that is already embedded within us. But we have, number one, we've been told for so long we don't have that ability. By the way, you have to pray to a god, or there's a dogma that's associated with it. You do not have the ability to heal. How dare you even think you do? And number two, it has not been an area of importance. It's not been stressed as important in our life. Right?
It's funny you say that. That was, if you ask me, Brent, how did you wreck your life so badly? There's actually a pretty simple answer. I remember in my early sessions when I was working with Terry, my first healer, we'd find belief systems in the subconscious, and she'd ask me, Brent, why do you believe that? And I'd say, dang it, Terry, I don't have beliefs. I just know what's true. I thought that what I believed didn't matter. I couldn't have been more wrong. Your beliefs are your truth, and they're literally coded into you. They're wired in at the subconscious level.
Yes.
And if you don't like what's happening in your life, you might want to learn to change that code. Otherwise, you're just drawn on your monitor.
And is that code that's been embedded in us, is that not only, I mean, I do believe in past lives and all of that other stuff, but is that also our beliefs that have been formulated from our culture, our family history? The
genetics is in fact the biggest piece.
Yeah.
So the number one biggest contributor is your genetics. Beyond that, there are a lot of stuff that happens in childhood. There is absolutely a lot of mass consciousness for our society. That has a big impact on our beliefs.
Definitely.
And all these things, they're where your code came from. That most of the code that's running your life was written by your ancestors.
It's written by somebody else. It's written by somebody else. It's not written by ourselves.
By somebody else. Right. And I want to show everybody, hey, it's your life. It's your code. You can take control of it. If you don't like how it's working, you can change it.
Right.
And it's actually not as hard as people think. It's very easy. When you have the right technology, it makes it very simple.
Brent, how can people, because this is what I'm getting right now, people are going, I want to know more. How can people find out a little bit more about, well, first of all, to get introduced to the first book, The Formula for Miracles, and the additional work that you do? Why don't you throw out the website for them right now?
Sure. The website is awakeningdynamics.com. Mm-hmm. And you should be able to, to sign up on the email list there.
Great.
And you'll get immediately a free book called Unseen Forces. We're also going to be giving away for the webinar the part 1 and part 2 of the new Formula for Miracles.
Beautiful.
And, take it from there. Hopefully everyone can join us for the webinar. I do want to say that, one of the things, I used to be really into martial arts. That was kind of my first introduction to spirituality. And one thing I learned was that the masters are those that are really good at the basics. And so learning the Formula for Miracles, that's your basics for spirituality. To do energy healing, to manifest, to clear space, to develop intuition. But there's so much more. That if you had me on 10 years ago, I would have been really excited about this stuff, but that was it. That's just the first step on the journey. There's so much more.
There's so much more, isn't there?
Learning to read energy. We have the really advanced processes of movement feedback holography for embodiment. I can turn on your ability to see auras and energy with your open eyes. There's all sorts of neat stuff. The most advanced trainings, I can teach you how to change the weather and all sorts of fun stuff. And for those that I know that sounds kind of crazy.
No, not for me.
Say,
I know.
If that sounds crazy, don't worry. When you are ready for it, it will be there waiting for you.
Yes, yeah, and not only, not only changing what is around us, very, very powerfully and very potently what you can attract and manifest into your life, be it relationships, be it career, whatever it is that you want to bring into your life. It is so very powerful that you have that key, that you know that you are in the driver, like you said, you're in the driver's seat.
Yep.
But you have to know that you're in the driver's seat.
Right. We have no idea that we're in the driver's seat.
No, we don't. We think we're just bouncing around like a pinball in a pinball machine.
Yeah. And what it comes down to is that for everyone listening, know that you are creating everything that's happening in your life.
Yes.
But here's the secret. Here's the thing, that the question nobody asked. I was around self-improvement, a full-time healer for 10 years before somebody asked me this question. What exactly is that you? And that is what we call the foot in the door to enlightenment. That when you know what you are, everything else falls into place. And that's where the name Awakening Dynamics comes from. That I had developed the formula for miracles as a full-fledged energy healing system in its own right, and it's great stuff. I was about to release it in 2011, and then I started to experience awakening. Somebody asked me, "What are you, Brent?" And I had to say, "Oh my gosh, I have no idea." It took me a long time to understand it. That's the awakening process. And it was so important to me and made such an enormous change that I decided to start from scratch, and I built Awakening. I rebuilt the formula for miracles on top of Awakening. And so, I want to offer to everybody the basics is really what I call the metaphysics. Simple things that I want to teach you that can make a big difference in your life. How to learn to get to a waking theta state. How to talk to the subconscious, how to do an instant healing, how to draw something into your life, how to access your intuition, how to clear space, harmful radiation. These are really simple things everyone can learn with a few hours of training.
And you're what I love about this too is that it's kind of like putting a young child on a bike with training wheels, and so you're allowing them the feeling of, I'm riding a bike. Yep. Oh my God, this feels great. But they're on training wheels. And if they decide, if you, the listener, decide to go, I want to take the training wheels off. I know I don't, it might be scary. I don't know where I'm going to go. I might end up in a curb or, the street. But if you know that you're doing, how it feels with the training wheels, and you want to go a little bit further, you have that ability. Not that you're going to become a Mario Andretti the next day, but that you're supported, and you're giving them the basics so that they have that spark. They have that recognition. I know with me, my recognition, it's those goosebumps. It's those chills that I have when I know something is right, is correct, is important for me to take notice of. Mm-hmm. So that's what I love about this, because this is you guide them through the basics if they want, and if they want to go a little bit deeper, a little bit further, they can. And you said something really important earlier, and I'd love to get into it. We have the ability to on the show to get in deeper. You were talking about when you discovered who you were. Let's talk about that, because I think most people say, well, I know who I am. I'm whatever. I'm a school teacher, aged 40, I've brought up middle class, or I'm a mother of 5, or, but that's not what we're talking about. When you talk about who, let's talk about that a little bit more, about who you are.
And it's funny that, I read a lot of stuff, worked with a lot of teachers. What I call the awakening process, other terms you'll see for it, they call it non-duality. In the East, it's called Advaita Vedanta. It's also known as Jnana Yoga, which is the highest form of yoga. A lot of people don't realize there's many different kinds of yoga. The physical yoga was originally developed as a way to prepare the body for meditative practice. That was where yoga came from. So the physical yoga is great, but that's just the first step. There's much more advanced abilities waiting for us. And so what I found was that by learning and mastering the metaphysics, I was able to affect a lot of change in my life. I was able to reduce my pain significantly, start a company, make money, find love, even start a family after I thought it was impossible. But I was still suffering. I was still at the effect of the ego. And what I thought I was essentially the ego, or what we call the false I. I thought I was Brent. I thought I was, a man, a healer, an American, a Californian, whatever, descriptors you want to put in there. More on the metaphysical piece, I thought I was some kind of soul or reincarnating spirit having a human experience. And so the truth is so much greater than any of that. And this is a little hard for people to understand at first because the truth is so far outside the context of our society. There's a great joke that you may have heard before where there's an old fish and a couple of young fish swimming in the ocean. And the old fish says to the young fish, "Hey, boys, how's the water today?" And one of the young fish looks at the other and says, "What's water?" And that's so funny because in our modern society, the water is the ego. We're so immersed in ego. It's all we know, it's all we see. We don't even see it. We're so immersed in it, it becomes invisible to us because we have no idea there's something that's not that. And so when I finally started to experience what they call awakening, the truth of you, for me, I felt like I got hit in the gut because I realized that my whole life had been built on a giant misunderstanding, that I didn't know what I was. And I'll just give a little piece right now. The truth of you is not any kind of being. That's one of the hardest pieces to get past. We think we're a human being, or we think we're a spiritual being having a human experience or an energy being. None of that is ultimately correct. I want to emphasize there is a relative reality to all these things, just like we all have a body, right? There it is. You can touch it, you can feel it, you can move it. The body needs to eat, it needs to rest, it needs exercise, right? So there is a body, but we know that we are more than just that body, right?
Right.
We also know there's a mind. You have thoughts, you make plans, you have ideas. There is a mind, isn't there? But you are much greater than just the mind. The body and the mind are just small pieces of what the real you is. And so is there a soul? Absolutely. Yes, there is. Is there an energy body, a spirit? Yes, there is. But you are far greater than any of that. In fact, there's nothing that is not you. And I want to emphasize to the listeners, no one understands awakening on their first exposure to it. Nobody. It takes time because it's so weird, it's so strange. Let me just offer a little bit of proof about what I'm saying. That all of our spiritual teachers from all over the world for thousands of years have all given us a very similar message. They've all said that we are one, that we are all connected, that we're the same. And I'm sure everyone's heard that in different ways, shapes, and forms, hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of times, right? Yeah. I don't think all of our greatest teachers say it because it's wrong. It's correct. But if we look at something like the body, the mind, or the soul, well, I got a body, a mind, and a soul, and you got a body, a mind, and a soul, and that guy over there got a body, a mind, and a soul, doesn't he?
Yep.
All those things are somehow different and distinct. So it cannot be the real you. Because the real you is everyone and everything. We are all connected. We are all one. So along the way, anything that is not everything cannot be you. And what you'll ultimately find is it's an incredible freedom. There are different levels of consciousness. The lowest levels of consciousness we might call the victim. When one is a victim, then you think that people or things outside of you have all the power. So those stuck in victim consciousness, they think that the power to change their life resides outside of them. It's the government, it's their boss, it's their family, right? It's their neighbors. When you graduate into what we call victor consciousness, then you realize by learning how to take action, you can actually change your life, right? You can exercise and build up your body. You can eat better. You can get an education, learn a skill, make money, get a relationship.
Of course.
Right? You have to apply yourself and do the work, but you can have success. Here's the trouble with our world. We think that that's the end of the game. We think that the ultimate to be attained in life is a high-level victor, someone that's healthy and lives a long time and has a lot of money and a lot of friends. Guess what? It's not. That's just an intermediate stage. It's like going to high school, right? Most of us went to high school. We learned a bunch of stuff, and we then graduated and went on to something greater, right? All the time we spend as a victor is preparing us for something greater, the state of the vehicle, which can only be accessed through awakening. And what you'll find is that no matter how much you gratify the ego, it's never going to eliminate your suffering.
Word.
Right? If you have money stress, you think that money will get rid of your stress. That's not true. It will temporarily suppress it, and then it comes back. And then you need more money to suppress it a little longer. It's a drug effect, right? If you want to feel good for a couple hours, go drink some beers, right? You'll get a nice buzz, but you're not going to feel good for the rest of your life, are you? And if you do that too much, that's what we call alcoholism, isn't it?
Well, and then you create things that create situations that, that take you down a different path.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is why there is no escape from the victor through accumulating stuff. By getting famous, by having money, it doesn't end your suffering. You just need more and more and more.
Yeah.
And there is a freedom waiting on the inside for all of us. And this is why I say that the real, the grandest step we can take is the discovery of what you are. That's what I call awakening. And that's why I developed Awakening Dynamics. But I will, freely say that, hey, awakening takes time. It's really weird. Nobody gets it at first.
I love that. No, you just summarized what awakening is when you just said it's really weird.
Yep.
Right?
But I also want to give people things that are more accessible and easier to learn and apply.
Yeah.
That's why I want to turn you into a master healer in a couple months. I want to show you that there's real power and value here.
Yeah. Yes.
Hopefully you'll stay in for the longer term. Which is really, it's a series of shortcuts to enlightenment. That I have been.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I've been very fortunate that one of my most important teachers was trained in the ancient mystery schools, and I have been given the permission to be sharing those teachings, things that used to be in the old days. You had to devote your life to the church, and you had to take your vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, and you had to give up all your stuff and go scrub their toilets for 20 years before they reveal to you these energies. That's no longer the case.
Well, thank goodness, because we're all very busy, Brent.
We are. And you know what? The world doesn't have decades and decades for us to sit on a mountaintop and contemplate what's going on. It needs us to take action.
It needs us to take action. It needs us to exactly. It needs us to take action immediately and change and flip the. I like to say flip the pancake, so to speak.
Sure.
I know that when people look around, a lot of it is there are some people that walk around this world in a very pessimistic outlook, and they look around and they go, "Oh, the world is bad," and look at the politics, look at what's going on, this and that, and this and that. And what I try to tell them, and through the shows, through Out of the Box Radio, through the guests that I have on, is that once you stop looking on the outside for your savior, for the change, and you really understand that it all comes from inside of you.
Yep, it really does.
It really does. And once you start taking stock of that and actually diving into that beautiful inner deep, you talk about going out into outer space, right? And out into the world, in the galaxies. Man, it ain't nothing bigger and more expansive than what's inside of you.
Nope.
Right? It just goes on and on and on. And it's so very powerful. Brent, we have just a couple minutes left in this show. I want to get out again the information. Let's give out again the information about your webinar that you're having in February, the website, and how people can get a hold of you, and anything else that you want to tell our listeners.
Sure. So anybody, if you, I encourage everyone just to hop onto my website. It's at awakeningdynamics.com. And, you should see a little pop-up box if you want to get on my email list. I'll send you a free book. You'll get an invitation to at least 2 different free healing events I'm doing. One will be the Healathon we're doing on February 6th, which I hope you can join us for. I will be not only talking about this stuff in more depth than we have time for here, I'm also going to be leading everyone through some interactive processes to experience higher consciousness. And doing a series of healings at the end. So that'll be a lot of fun. If anybody's interested in contacting me for private sessions for one-on-one work, you can give me a call at 818-915-0960. That's 818-915-0960. And, if you have any trouble getting any of this stuff, you can always reach out to me and my staff. Just email support@awakeningdynamics.com. So that, if you have any questions, just email us here, support@awakeningdynamics.com. And, we'll get right back and help you out, because it is my mission and my purpose to take all these things I've learned and discovered and bring it out to the world. Because, this was really hard for me to learn. It took a long time. It was outrageously expensive. I want to make it really simple and really easy.
Oh, what a beautiful gift. What a beautiful gift you give the world, Brent Phillips. And I want to thank you so very much for sharing this information and knowledge and what you do for the world. Like I said, that ripple effect is huge, and I see it and feel it. And I've known for many years where your heart is and where you're coming from. And it's an honor to actually get to speak with you on this program, finally, after so many years of knowing the work that you do. So thank you so very much for making the time to be on Out of the Box Radio. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's been awesome to be here. And, I hope we got to reach out and change some lives today.
I think we did. I think we did. Folks, again, if you want to find out more, go to awakeningdynamics.com. My guest this hour is Brent Phillips. His brand new book is The Formula for Miracles, where science reveals the secrets of the spirit. Find out more about that at awakeningdynamics.com. Of course, you can also check on Amazon.com as well if you'd like just to get the book. But go to the website, get involved on the webinar, and check out the work that he has done. He's absolutely amazing, and I think you're going to be amazed at yourself, the journey that you're going to take along with Brent Phillips. Thank you again so very much, Brent, for your time and all the work that you've done over these years. I really appreciate it. And I know our listeners appreciate it as well. Thank you so much.
It's been awesome to be here. It's been great.
And I want to remind our listeners, I want to say thank you very much for listening this hour. And you can always access the YouTube video of this program. Make sure that you share it with your friends and family through social media, email. You can send that link to anybody. And if you want to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode of Out of the Box Radio, you can do that at iTunes, or you can do that at iHeartRadio. Or if you just want to check out the videos on YouTube, you can, of course, subscribe to the Out of the Box Radio YouTube channel. Until next week, I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and always remind you, as we do, to think outside of the box. Bye for now.